Hi everyone, my name is Melissa Dowell and I'm a school psychology graduate student and I'm due to graduate in May, and I will be talking to you today about my research project titled Behavior Problems Seen in the Virtual World. So first, before I go over the background, I'd like to go over my objectives and hypotheses. So my two main focuses when doing this research project is to see what behavior problems occur most frequently in the school setting, in the virtual classrooms when looked at by high school, middle school, and elementary school. And I also want to see what most teachers do in response to these behaviors and if what they do appears to work. So my hypothesis would be the most common behavior problems seen in the virtual classroom will be off-task behaviors, not turning in assignments, and inappropriate vocalizations. And I will also say some teachers will say what they do work, and some teachers will say it doesn't. I think it really just depends on the teacher, what they teach, how many students they have, a number of different factors. Okay, so when it comes to background information, truthfully, there's not a lot of background information to be had. Some of the things that we have to remember is that, research into what happens in virtual classrooms, there's not a lot of it. The COVID-19 pandemic made this more essential. However, some of the previous research have shows that aggression seems to be a common behavior in the virtual classroom and off-task behavior as well. But remember, this has definitely become more prevalent during the COVID-19 pandemic. Alright, so the participants for this survey was just teachers. So I did this in my internship school district, Sumter Schools district. It was sent to elementary, middle, and high school teachers. It was sent to all different types of teachers: resource teachers, self-contained teachers, regular education teachers, PE teachers, all of it. So those were my participants. And I ended up with about 20 to 30 participants from each school every time I sent the survey out. Alright, and again, my materials, I just used an online survey. This was a thematic survey, which just means that I'm looking for their themes because some of my questions were open-ended. And so I just wanted to see their top 3 behavior issues in the virtual classroom they see from their students. And then again, I will look at how teachers dealt with the behavior and whether they seem to work. And again, the design of the survey, like I mentioned previously, it's a thematic survey. And so again, this survey is basically, we are looking at the themes. What are the most common themes of the questions that I get? So what are the most common behavior problems? What is the most common thing done? Different things like that. So procedure. So this study was sent out once in the fall semester of the school year and once in the spring semester of the school year. And I will mention next about how some of the limitations I have, cause this to be just the middle school in the fall semester. But we'll talk about that more on a different slide. So based off the question of the most common behavior problems, when I examined these themes, most of the teachers said that the students are not going to class, they're off task. If they are coming to class, they're not turning in assignments, and then there are inappropriate vocalizations. So overall, that's the most general. Now I also saw special education teachers tended to do more diverse things to help their students, while general education teachers stuck mainly towards calling the parents. And then elementary versus high school, elementary was more calling the parents, while high school was more talking to the kids themselves. So most of the teachers answered that they redirected the students and called the parents about the behavior. Some of the teachers stated that this seemed to work to correct the behavior, and sometimes it did not. So behavior problems were seen in all virtual classrooms, no matter what grade it was, whether it was related arts, special ed, general education. the teachers did comment, 'cause I did allow them to have an optional comment box if they wanted to say something else, that the more involved parents were with their children overall, the quicker the behavior problems tended to rectify themselves. That the teachers commented that that seems to correlate together. So, what does it mean for the field? So, due to the results of the survey, it was found that teachers see similar behavior problems across the board in the virtual classrooms. This implies that this information can be generalized to other school districts. School psychologists and other professionals need to look at interventions specifically tailored to the virtual classroom. So, my hope is that in the future we'll be able to have interventions. So my limitations. So there were several, and I mean several limitations to this study. I really wanted to do like observations in all of these classrooms, but because everybody being in a virtual classroom was so new in the study, when I first started the study, the school district did not give me permission to do these observations, and they said that again it was a privacy issue. And then I stated in the methods section that I was unable to obtain file data for the elementary and the high school because around mid-October I got word from the district that there was all of a sudden new paperwork I had to do to get my project approved. So I had to wait a while to get that done, but luckily I was able to send it out in the spring. And so again, there's going to be limitations to every study, and I really hope one day I'll be able, or someone else will be able to expand more on this study, do these observations, maybe once, school districts figure out exactly what they want for like the virtual classrooms. So future research. So I hope that one day data collected on behavior problems in the virtual classroom will be used to design interventions within the virtual classroom. Hopefully the school districts will also allow the researchers to study whole classroom behaviors virtually. So again, I really hope that we can get interventions put into place, because again, like a lot of interventions that we have, they're not really, there's not a lot of evidence behind them when you use them in a virtual classroom. Most of the research was done when the kids were actually in the classroom, like present, and they could do that face to face. So I really hope one day we can do virtual interventions and have good, really, 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 really good evidence to back up interventions in the virtual class. These are my references. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.